Hey guys, welcome back to Fueled Iowa. I wanted to talk about how to keep from getting ripped off from a repair shop, or making sure an easy way to tell that you're dealing with a legitimate repair shop. Now I'm going to focus on small engine, two-stroke today, but realistically these principles apply to every combustion engine out there, and it's your basic diagnostics of an engine. And I'm going to show you real time. It does not take that long to actually do this. Not everybody's going to have these tools, and I get that, and that's all right. But at least you can have the idea. And if you want to go get these tools, that's cool. You can do that as well. So, not that big of a deal. It's not overly expensive. And in fact, I think sometimes you could rent or borrow some of these from the auto parts store. But let's get to it. Whenever you have a piece of equipment that is having any kind of engine problem, it runs off of fuel, air, compression, and spark. That's it. It's simple. Two-stroke, four-stroke, that's all it is. So whenever a piece of equipment comes into a shop, a legitimate shop should have a process that they follow. Today we're going to be looking at a leaf blower. And this leaf blower is actually in good running order. It is dirty, but still, first thing any legitimate shop should do is look at the fuel. Dump the fuel out, all the fuel. Should never keep whatever fuel the customer brings in. You know, even if you just fill it up, you bring it into a shop that I've worked at, we're dumping that fuel. We want a baseline ground zero. 2, inspecting all the primer bulbs, fuel lines, things like that. You want to make sure that none of this is hard. You want that primer bulb to be soft and malleable to a point. You want to have these fuel lines to where they aren't hard and brittle. If they're hard and brittle or broken, right then and there, in that first minute, right there, just looking at that right there, that fuel line's hard and brittle. I'm going to have a discussion with you that, hey, that is degrading. Those pieces that are breaking off externally can be breaking off internally and getting into your carburetor. There's a potential there that we'll need to clean your carburetor or even possibly replace it depending on the cost, all that stuff. That's neither here nor there, but that is a legitimate, real issue. Next thing to do is a compression test. If there's no compression, there's no fire. That's just how it goes. So it is as easy as pulling the spark plug out. And let's see what all tools we have to deal this with. I think I want a little extension on that. I'm working from home here. I was working on the Jeep, and this kind of came to mind that I've been wanting to show this to people for quite a while. So my goodness, that was on there tight. So, and looking at the spark plug. Next thing a good technician's going to do is they're going to want to see what that spark plug looks like. See how it has that light charcoal color? That's burning clean. That's running really well. Not a problem with that. Compression test, super easy. Compression gauge. Now, if you use the same gauge all the time, you know what it is. I've been told, I've never used a different gauge, okay? I've been told the different lengths of these hoses can change the volume a little bit, so your numbers can be off. On most all two-strokes, I'm looking for at least 110 PSI. Way to get that, or to test it, you just screw this in. If I can get it to line up here. I should have grabbed a saw to do this a little easier. Just going by that handle's a little tough. There we go. So, once we screw this in, get that seal to grab down there, we're just pulling it 8 times. And we're checking to see what that compression is. It is about 140, 145, somewhere in there. Compression's good. Don't have to worry about it. Take this out. And you can do this at the same time or you can do it at a different time, doesn't matter. But if I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, I would have put my spark gap tester in there at the same time I did that. Now, spark gap tester, there's a couple different versions out there. You don't want the light, okay? Not for testing this. You want something like this, which is a cheap, I think, $8-10 piece. What you're doing is you're making sure that that spark's strong enough to jump a certain gap. You want that spark strong enough to actually fire under compression. You cannot do that in a normal, put the spark plug on the cylinder head and you see that little gap on just the spark plug gap. That's not enough power, or you can't judge the power to make sure that it's going to fire under 150 pounds of PSI. This, when you adjust that out, the number I'm looking for is a 6 millimeter gap. I want to see that jump 6 millimeters. That tells me that under normal circumstances that it has enough to make that jump. This is another spark gap tester, a little nicer unit, a little bit more adjustable, but again, I'm just getting that 6 mil jump. So that's what we're looking for. You can see it through the light and stuff there. I'm looking to make it jump that far. So I put this on. You guys won't be able to see this in the light with the video and stuff. Sorry. But with the spark plug out, it makes it super easy. Plug that in. I'm hooking this right to the cylinder with my plug here. That way I have a good ground. And then I give it a good pull. And I can see that jump. I don't know, maybe you can see that jump. It's got a hell of a good spark. So right there, in those few tests, real quick, I determined I have good compression, I have good spark. My fuel lines and stuff are decent. I dumped the fuel out, or I would have, made sure there was no debris in there that I'm chasing, and I get a proper diagnosis. Now, things like low compression can be a few things, but in that time right there, if it has low compression, I'm already into your machine, not even 10 minutes. And if it has low compression, I know it's either stuck rings or it's a scored piston, something like that. I visually look down the cylinder with a bright light to see if I can see anything there. If I can possibly see some transfer on the exhaust side of the cylinder, I know right then and there there's more likely scoring on the piston. It's had either an air leak, bad fuel, mixed fuel, something like that put into the system. If there's no spark right then and there, I know it could be something as simple as the switch is grounded out, or it could be the coil itself. But I got a good idea now what I'm working with, and I can tell that customer in 10 minutes time of what's going on. And a legitimate shop should always be able to tell you, your machine had this much compression. Your machine was able to produce a strong enough spark here before they start hanging parts on it. You know, your machine had debris from the fuel lines in the fuel tank. That's getting picked up into your system. This is why, you know, we're suggesting a carburetor, because by the time we rebuild it, it costs the same. And if a company tells you that they're cleaning your carburetor, ask them if they know how to remove and replace Welsh plugs. Because if you don't remove those Welsh plugs and actually clean those bypass ports, you did not clean that carburetor. Okay, it takes a rebuild kit. There's no just I'm going to spray it with brake cleaner and everything's going to be fine. Doesn't always work. You want it actually cleaned. You want the Welsh plugs removed. You want the high and low needles removed. You want the thing tore down as far as possible, because realistically, if there's degradation, or if the fuel lines are degraded, that means your diaphragm can be degraded as well. So why risk it over those few parts? Now, granted, a lot of times this day and age, shop labor rates $75, $90 an hour. Takes a good hour to clean a carburetor properly. A lot of times we can put a brand new carburetor on for less for the customer and have less worries. But either way, if they told you they cleaned it, I want to see the Welsh plug that you pulled out. Or at least I want to know you know how to pull a Welsh plug out and how to put one back in. Most people don't. A lot of these places are short-changing people and throwing parts on and 2 and 3 parts. Well, we thought it was a carburetor, but we found out it was this as well. No, it wasn't that as well. You didn't do a proper 10-minute diagnosis on my machine for you to be able to tell that it didn't have enough spark to actually fire under load, or it didn't have enough compression. If this is sitting at 100 psi compression and I'm having running issues, guess what? No matter if I put a new carburetor on it, a new coil, new spark plug, new fuel filter, everything like that, it still has low compression and it's still going to have issues. Not going to change. Too many places are ripping people off. Too many places don't know what the hell they're doing. And this information here, like I said, if you don't have the tools, at least now you have the knowledge of how long it actually takes, what it takes to do it, and you can do it, or you can at least question the shop. Hey, I want to make sure XYZ is being followed properly. What is your diagnostic procedure? As you can see, I just glimpsed at it real quick to show you, but it doesn't take long at all for a person to actually, when they look at the machine, to have a good idea. I know this has 140 PSI. I know it can jump a 6 mil plus gap on the spark. So if I'm having running issues, I don't have to look at those two areas at all. I know it's good. So, thank you. Please share this, subscribe. Let anybody know that you think could benefit from this information. Share it to them. It's all good. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Have yourself a wonderful day. Talk to you real soon.